listening to the IELTS podcast. Learn from tutors and ex-examiners who are masters of IELTS preparation. Your host, Ben Worthington.
Hello there, IELTS students. Right, this episode is all about getting ideas, all about generating ideas for your IELTS Task 2 essays. Now, what we're going to do, I decided to focus on getting ideas because I know that IELTS Task 2 is one of the biggest pain points for IELTS students. And when we've got a massive pain point, I know from personal experience the best way to deal with this massive problem is to break it down into smaller problems and deal with each problem individually. Okay, and specifically what we're going to do in this one, is focus on the point, focus on getting ideas. Okay, now a lot of IELTS tutors say the first thing you need to do is write your introduction, or the first thing you need to do is make a plan. And personally, I think they're all wrong because the first thing you need to do is, one, understand what the question wants and then generate ideas. What we're going to do in this episode is look at both of those two requirements because that's what's going to get you started. That's what's going to once you eliminate these little problems, understanding what the question wants, then you can start to generate ideas, okay? And both of these are really, really important because if we start off on the wrong track, we didn't understand what the question wants from us, then 40 minutes later, we've written an essay about something else. And that's very, very bad. That's a disaster because you're not only going to lose points for task response, but you're going to write an essay about something very different, so the examiner can't really give you the points, so you've gone and lost 25%, and that's something that can be avoided with good training. Now, to get the most from this podcast, I strongly implore you, I strongly encourage you to get a pen and work through this with me, okay? What we're going to look at first is understanding the question, and then straight after the question we're going to generate ideas. We're only going to look at 5 questions, and we're going to look at the area of politics. Why did I choose politics? Because it's one of those essay topics that causes the most, not pain, but it's one that students, in my experience, students are not generally super enthusiastic about. Okay, so let's have a look at the first question. Before we start, if you need more help with this, you can go to the IELTS online course at sentenceguide.com, where we go into this in much more detail, and you get tasks and you get exercises and you get feedback to help you really improve, and the improvement is quite radical, it's quite fast. Okay, so let's get started. Question 1. Some people believe that politicians are the most influential in the world, while others believe scientists are the most influential. Which side do you agree with and why? Provide specific reasoning for your answer. So I'll just say it again. Some people believe that politicians are the most influential people in the world, while others believe scientists are the most influential. Which side do you agree with and why? Provide specific reasoning for your answer. Step number 1. What is the question asking? Okay, what do I need to write about? This is how I would understand it. I'm going to transform it into an easier sentence. It's just basically saying which are most influential, scientists or politicians. Okay, that's the question. That's how I've transformed it. Now I've got a clearer idea what I'm going to write about, and I'm going to take the position politicians are more influential. Okay, and because it's 250 words, and we're going to use around 25 words for the introduction, 25 words for the conclusion, then I'm going to just need 2 body paragraphs, okay? Because I've only got 200 words left. And so why am I going to write 3 body paragraphs? They're going to be really skinny body paragraphs. So let's just do 2 body paragraphs. Going back to the question, which are most influential, politicians or scientists? I would say politicians are. Why? I've got to give a logical reason. Because they get more media attention. How can I prove this? How can I demonstrate that I'm correct? Well, Donald Trump. Everybody knows Donald Trump. He gets insane amounts of media coverage, and so he's obviously going to be more influential. Okay? So that's my idea and my example for body paragraph 1. Let's have a look at body paragraph 2. I'll say that scientists are not influential because they don't affect mass media as much. Now, how can I prove that I'm correct? I could say that, I don't know, I'm just going to invent a study saying that a lot of scientists are hardly in the media because there is not that much public interest in them, and it still sounds like I'm waffling, okay? So what I'm going to have to do now is give you a solid real-world example that proves my point, and I can't think of any, so I'm just going to invent it. I'm just going to say a recent study by the Canadian Society for Scientists showed that the public have very little knowledge of their work. Let's just say showed that 70% of the public could not name the 3 most important scientists in each given discipline. Therefore, and then I'll just say that scientists, due to lack of media attention, are very uninfluential, are not influential at all. Okay? Those are my 2 arguments. Okay? Maybe it's not the most, it is believable, and if I was going to get investigated by an investigative journalist or whatever, then maybe it's not factually correct, but it's believable and it's logical and it's rational, and that's okay. All right? As I've said a million times before, this IELTS exam is supposed to be testing your language ability. Okay, so if you just give a believable argument that's logical, that's okay. And the examiner is going to be focusing on your writing ability, not your sort of like your ability to think of logical examples. Okay, simple as. Let's have a look at question 2. How can the government of a country prevent illegal drugs from entering the country? Explain your solution to this problem and provide specific examples and reasoning. So, let's simplify the question. Pause the podcast and think, what is that question asking me? Well, it's basically asking you a very simple question. How can it stop illegal drugs entering the country? Simple, very simple. So explain your solution to this problem and provide specific examples and reasoning. So let's see. My idea for number 1 would be it could increase spending, increase military spending, and it could develop a special government department to prevent drugs from entering the country, and this government department would solely operate on the borders of the country, okay, or extra law enforcement on the borders of the country. Very simple. And then I would just probably give an example of, I don't know, Belgium increasing border controls managed to reduce drug smuggling by 50%. I don't know if that's true, but it sounded believable, so it's fine. All right. Body paragraph number 2. Let's see. What we could do, another solution for preventing illegal drugs from entering the country, what we could do is just reduce demand from the population by increasing the penalties associated to drug use. So we could say increasing the fines for people caught using drugs would reduce demand, as they would be more scared from buying drugs. This would reduce demand, and therefore in total less drugs would be entering the country as a result of less consumers. Okay? And then if there was space, give an example. Okay, and that's quite simple, and that's just my logical argument for that essay. Now, if you're smart, you would have grabbed a pen at the beginning of this podcast, perhaps jotted down the questions, jotted down like your interpretation of the questions, what they're actually wanting, and then you would have looked at my ideas, or hopefully produced your own ideas, and then maybe even just practice writing an essay around those ideas and getting into the habit and getting skills, because you can only learn by doing. Next, let's have a look. And by the way, if you're in a rush and you don't have time to do all these tutorials with me with the podcast, have a look at sentenceguide.com. Very simple to follow system, and there's tutorials with feedback, so you can get feedback from the tutor to see if you're on the right track, producing the right kind of essays and right kind of ideas. And it's just a faster way to work through what we're doing now. Okay, so let's have a look at question 3. Another thing with a sentence guide is there's a whole chapter on identifying the question and basically simplifying the question. Okay, much more detailed than this, and you also get feedback from the actual examiner, from the tutor. So let's go. Question number 3. Many countries have different priorities when it comes to what they spend most of their time focusing on. While some countries focus on healthcare and education, other countries focus on infrastructure and employment. Out of these two compounded areas of focus, which do you find to be the most beneficial? Provide ample details and examples for your answer. Wow. Okay, you can either rewind and listen to that again, because there's lots of words and lots of distractions there. Okay, I'm not going to repeat it again. I'm just going to give you my simplified version of that question. What does the examiner want here? What kind of essay does he want? Basically, he wants to know, which should a country focus on, healthcare and education or infrastructure and employment? Okay? Let's choose one, and we're going to build one. We're going to build our essay around that one idea. I'm going to say that countries should focus on healthcare and education. And because we've got 2 topics here, I'm going to be very smart about this. I'm going to say body paragraph 1, I'm going to say why countries should focus on healthcare. Body paragraph 2, why countries should focus on education. Okay, let's have a look. So I'm going to say healthcare because healthy workers will be able to work more often, and they will be off work less. A recent study by the World Health Organization showed that governments with strong and public free healthcare systems had 30% less absenteeism than countries with no healthcare systems, or with poor healthcare systems. Now, can you see another example? I made it up, but I needed an example in there, a real world example, so I could prove my point of what I was saying, because it's only an idea, okay? And from there, I can build my whole body paragraph. And it's really easy to build the body paragraph once you've got a system in place, like a step-by-step formula to follow. And like I said a million times before, you can just go to sentenceguide.com and have a look at that. So body paragraph 2, we're going to look at education. Now, for education, how would education, or why should a country focus on education? Because higher educated workers can earn more money, and there will be more taxes in the economy, more wages or higher wages to tax, which would produce more income for the government to increase the well-being of their citizens. Okay? For example, and then I'm going to give an example of when this was the case. Okay, maybe I'll choose Ireland, which spends over 20% of its GDP on education since 1970 and has seen real income growth for its citizens at a rate of 3%. Okay, now can you see in these questions and with my answers, I'm using lots of topic-specific vocabulary. And the vocabulary, I'll give you an example: absenteeism, real income growth, GDP. All of this type of vocabulary is essential, and if you need more vocabulary like this, then have a look at the, have a look at the IELTSPodcast.com. There's a whole section on IELTS vocabulary, and this specific post, there is a massive list of collocations, which are topic-specific collocations, and these are absolutely essential for scoring high because they make your essay sound more natural. And it's the topic-specific vocabulary, specialist vocabulary, that will separate you from a band 7, 8, and 9, from a band 6. Okay, you cannot get higher than a band 6 without this vocabulary. Let's have a look at the next question. The fourth question: people in developing countries have a positive outlook when it comes to economic growth, while people in developed countries do not have this same positive outlook. Why is this so? So this question could cause a few problems for a student. Okay, what does the examiner want here? What is the examiner asking? What do I need to write down to get full points in task response? These are excellent questions. So let's have a look at the question again. People in developing countries have a positive outlook when it comes to economic growth, while people in developed countries do not have this same positive outlook. Why is this so? So we've got two clauses there. We've got two main ideas. So as we said before, usually we're going to write with 4 paragraphs, which means 2 body paragraphs. And in this question, we've got 2 main ideas. The first idea is people in developing countries have a positive outlook when it comes to economic growth. And the second idea was people in developed countries have a negative outlook, basically. Okay, so let's put a paragraph, dedicate a body paragraph to each idea of the question, and we're going to make, this way we'll make sure we're going to absolutely nail task response. So body paragraph 1. Why do people in developing countries have a positive outlook? Well, we can say that because they have so little, they can improve quickly and faster, and they can also see what's available on the horizon. For example, if a poor person in Papua New Guinea only has a horse, then it's quite clear to see the next stage, which could be a motorbike or a car. Okay, so that could be my argument. Now I'm going to have difficulties finding an example there, so I could just say, let's see. For example, a recent study showed that 50% of farmers in Papua New Guinea were excited, looking ahead, because they knew what machinery and capital, what machinery they were going to buy or they planned to purchase. Okay, it's not the strongest example. It's not totally unbelievable, but it's sufficient for the exam. And like I said before, it's not the quality of your ideas here. It's the quality of your writing and the quality of you being able to present an argument. And I presented my argument pretty well there. It wasn't easy, but I'd stated my position and then I backed it up. I reinforced it by giving an example about the Papua New Guinean farmers. Okay? And of course, I'll have to reorganize those thoughts and put it in a very coherent way, probably more succinct, but that's why having a solid essay plan is essential, and you can get your solid essay plan from sentenceguide.com. So let's have a look at the second body paragraph. Why people in developed countries do not have the same positive outlook. Okay, here I'm going to say citizens, and I'm going to change the vocabulary. Citizens in developed countries generally have a less positive outlook because they have already attained most of their material possessions and find it difficult to look forward into the future. For example, a recent study showed that 90% of Americans already have one house and 2 cars. This could be a possible reason why people in developed countries have a less positive outlook with regards to the future. Okay, of course I'm going to reorganize those sentences, but once again, I don't know if that's true, 90% of people in America, but it sounded believable and it was kind of a logical argument. Okay, I'm not going to get investigated by the American government. I'm not going to be challenged by the IELTS examiner. He's got about 50 exam papers. He's not going to jump on Wikipedia and check out the stats. Okay? So, question 5. Final question, and then we're finishing. So, many people in many countries prefer to shop in supermarkets as opposed to small local shops. What is the developmental effect of supporting supermarkets instead of local businesses? And how does it affect the local economy? Provide specific examples and reasoning. This isn't totally easy. Let's just read that again, or maybe you want to pause it and just have a think about the question and even develop your own ideas and then your own plan, or even just get a solid understanding of the question. Many people in many countries prefer to shop in supermarkets as opposed to small businesses, to small local shops. What is the developmental effect of supermarkets instead of supporting supermarkets instead of local businesses, and how does it affect the local economy? So, once again, there's 2 main ideas in this question. What is the developmental effect of supporting supermarkets? Paragraph 1. Okay, and how does it affect the local economy? Paragraph 2. Now we've understood what the question wants, we're going to look at what ideas can we put down there. So, idea number 1 for what is the developmental effect of supermarkets. Well, I'm just going to say it's a positive effect because they bring in a high degree of professionalism, especially related to logistics and stock planning. For example, a Spanish supermarket invests over 300 million euros annually in its logistics centres to improve efficiency. Okay, and that's my body paragraph 1. Of course, I'm going to put the topic sentence and I'm going to put a concluding sentence and all the rest of it. That's my general idea. Now, body paragraph 2. How does it affect the local economy? Well, I'm going to say it's beneficial for the local economy because they bring a high degree of professionalism and training into a local area. And then I'm just going to say cashiers, topic-specific vocabulary. Cashier is somebody who works on the tills at the checkout. Say cashiers in a national Korean supermarket have to attend training sessions for 3 months before being allowed to attend to customer requirements at the checkout. Okay? Now, is that true? I don't think so. Was it believable? Yes. Could it be true? Very easily. Does it support my point? Absolutely. Okay? So, this is like the mindset we need to get into. Okay? All we have to do is communicate, because this is a language exam, communicate strong examples with strong reasons and strong arguments. Okay? Preferably in the reverse order, like your idea, your argument, and then back it up with a strong example and a strong reason. Okay? Right. So, if you're in a rush to get all this, if you need more help with this, then check out sentenceguide.com, because there's a whole chapter about identifying the questions, and we go into all the different question types. Then you get feedback for your ideas, and it's just a much faster and simpler way to improve, because you've got the tutor guiding you each step of the way. Okay? And you get to put all your ideas and your thoughts into practice, and it's just a much easier way to approach the whole process. Okay, so have a look there, sentenceguide.com, and yeah, all the best. If you've got any questions, just send me an email. If you want some more questions to work with, and like I said before, you're only going to get these skills by doing practice questions. And so, for example, if you've got a major problem identifying the question or understanding what the question, why don't you just go through lots of questions and try and simplify them and build essay plans around them, okay? And then once you get that skill, you probably need to know if you're on the right track, in which case you'll probably want feedback from a tutor, okay? So that's why the sentence guide is pretty good. Okay, you can get all these questions, you get the exercises to work through the questions, identify them, and then you get feedback to see whether you're on the right track. So yeah, it's probably worth checking out if you're struggling with your Task 2 essays, and if you need some support and some feedback, and you're determined to improve and you're determined to pass this exam. Okay, well, thank you for listening. Have a fantastic day. And remember, sign up to the newsletter.
Thanks for listening to IELTSPodcast.com.